Before you let out your first cry, before this body even formed in your mother's womb, a choice had already been made. And the one who made that choice was your soul, not the gods, not blind fate. It was you, on a deeper level, in a dimension far beyond human logic, who chose this life. You chose this physical form, your height, gender, and ethnicity. You chose the family into which you would reincarnate, the relationships you would have, the wounds you would carry, and even the unfinished lessons from previous lives. You chose the exact moment in time to be born, in a modern world full of chaos and illusion. Nothing was random. Everything was part of a plan your soul created for itself, to learn, to grow, and to remember what it once knew but has since forgotten. But then, the moment you were born, you forgot everything. Not because you were weak. Forgetting was part of the game. This society is designed to make you believe that life starts the moment you're born and ends when you die. That you are just this body, this name, this nationality. That you must follow a predetermined script, go to school, work, start a family, grow old, and die. You are taught to live according to the identity others gave you, a name, a gender, a religion, a role. Gradually, you forgot the voice within. You forgot the feeling that you once knew more. But the soul never stays silent. It continues to whisper. Have you ever met someone for the first time and felt like you'd known them forever? Have you ever had a dream so vivid it left you shaken when you woke up? Have you ever felt a strange connection to a place you've never been, or carried a fear you couldn't explain? These are not mere imagination. They are echoes from an old memory, something your soul once experienced but temporarily forgot when it entered this life. Your soul didn't come here for a perfect life. It didn't seek ease or comfort. It chose challenges, chose wounds, chose pain, because all of it is a lesson. Earth is a school, not a paradise. Every experience, whether sweet or bitter, helps your soul evolve, helps you understand your true nature, beyond all temporary roles. You may have forgotten why you came here, but deep in your heart, there's always been a quiet sense that something more, something deeper, is waiting to be remembered. And if you are reading these words, if you have ever asked yourself, who am I? Why was I born? Then perhaps you are beginning to awaken. You are beginning to remember the truth that you, yes, you, chose long before stepping into this world. There is a truth most of us were never taught. Or if we heard it, we didn't dare believe it. The world you are living in is an illusion. Everything you see, touch, or possess is merely a temporary expression of energy, shaped into form, color, and sensation. But behind this veil of material existence, there is something deeper, more real, and your soul once knew it. From the moment you were born, you are led to believe that this world is the only reality. That the house you live in, the car you drive, the job you have, the reputation you build, all these things are of ultimate importance. You are taught that success means having more, and failure means losing it. You are swept into the cycle of earning, proving, achieving, never realizing that all of it is just the mist of a temporary dream. No one told you that everything material will eventually fade. That all your accumulated possessions, wealth, degrees, status, cannot follow you beyond the grave. No one told you that this world you call real is just a stage, a temporary arena where you play a role, learn lessons, and then move on. And by believing in that illusion, people gradually lose touch with their true nature. They identify with their appearance, their titles, their belongings. They fear loss, fear failure, fear being not enough. They chase artificial metrics, grades, salaries, ideal relationships, social media likes, unaware that all of these are games crafted by society to control the mind. But if you've ever felt that something is off with this world, if you've looked around at the busyness and chaos of life and asked, what is this all for? Then you're standing at the doorway of awakening. That emptiness you feel after achieving everything but still not feeling fulfilled, that's the signal. That unease despite living a successful life, that's the whisper. You're not wrong. Your intuition is trying to remind you that this is not the whole truth. The material world is just the outer shell. It's only a tiny fraction of existence. Behind it lies an energetic field, a dimension unseen by the human eye, the place your soul truly belongs. And because you've lived in the illusion for so long, you began to think it was the only reality, but the truth is the opposite. What you call reality is only a dream, and your soul is waiting for you to wake up. Only when you dare to question reality, to break out of the mold, to ask deeper questions, can you start to see the truth behind the stage. And once you see it, you will never be the same. The things that once made you anxious, competitive, afraid, will begin to lose their grip. You will begin to live differently, lighter, more aware, freer, because you now understand. This life is just a short stretch on the infinite journey of your soul. Perhaps you've wondered, if the soul truly knew in advance the difficulties and pain that this life would bring, why would it choose to forget? Why would it willingly enter a life full of wounds, confusion, and ignorance? The answer may sound paradoxical, but it contains a profound truth. Only through forgetting can we truly learn how to remember. Earth is not a reward. It is a school, a place where the soul comes to learn, to train, to grow. Every pain, every stumble, every moment that seems unfair, is a carefully crafted lesson meant to awaken you. But for the lesson to have value, you must forget. Imagine if you entered this life already remembering that you are an eternal soul, invulnerable and unbreakable. Would you truly learn anything if you knew in advance who would hurt you, who would leave you, who was simply a test in your journey? Would you still feel the depth of love? Or would you just play your part like an audience member watching a play, never truly moved? It is the forgetting that makes the experience real. When you forget who you are, you begin to search. When you feel lost, you begin to ask questions. And it is in that process, that journey back to your true self, that you grow. Your soul doesn't evolve through knowing. It evolves through experiencing. That's why the soul consciously chooses to forget. It knows the truth is always present, even if hidden. It knows that even after wandering in darkness for a long time, there will come a moment when you feel the first ray of light, and from that moment, you will never be the same again. You will begin your awakening, slowly, layer by layer, until you return to yourself. But this is not an easy path. Because when you forget, you feel pain. You begin to believe everything others tell you, that you are just a name, just a body, just a small being in a vast world. You are taught that you must compete, accumulate, and prove your worth in order to be loved. You live inside an illusion, and you believe it is real. And then, in a quiet moment, a strange dream, a glance, a sorrow you cannot explain, your soul softly speaks. It doesn't shout, it doesn't force, it just whispers. Something's not right, something has been forgotten. Please, listen. And that's the moment you begin to remember. Not with logic, but with a feeling, a vague but powerful stirring, an awakening too deep to describe in words. And that is why the soul chooses to forget, to have the chance to rediscover the light on its own, because a truth that is handed to you will never be as strong as a truth you discover yourself. And only what is discovered through your own heart can truly set you free. Death is not the end, it is only a door. When the physical body stops breathing, the soul does not vanish. It simply steps into another phase, a quiet yet meaningful journey, where each soul must face itself. Right after leaving the physical world, the soul enters a state known as the life review. But this is not just a quick slideshow of memories, it is a tapestry woven from emotions. You don't just see what you did, you feel it? If you caused someone pain, you feel that pain as if it were your own. If you gave love, that warmth washes over you once again. There is no judge. No God sits above you, handing out punishment. You are the one who reviews your own life, with a clarity you never had while alive. For some souls, that moment is liberating. They understand the lessons, accept what happened, and are ready to move on. But for many others, it is a nightmare. Regret, anger, attachment, and fear come rushing in like a great wave. And if the soul is not ready to let go, it becomes trapped, wandering between two worlds, no longer human, but not yet free. It is in this state that the cycle begins again. Souls that remain attached return to earth, bringing with them unfinished lessons, unresolved emotions, and unhealed relationships. They choose a new body, a new environment, but the soul remains the same, and like a child, they forget once more. They begin again, they play the same game on a new board. That is the nature of the cycle of reincarnation, an endless loop of birth, death, rebirth, driven not by some punishing force, but by the soul's own attachments, attachment to loved ones, to wealth, to fame, to pain, to ego. The things we refuse to let go of become the chains that pull us back. And so, lifetime after lifetime, people live, and die, and live again, unaware that they are spinning on a giant wheel. They believe this is their first time. They think they are living a unique, singular life, but in reality, they have lived hundreds, even thousands of times, in different bodies, in different countries, with different names, but the lessons remain the same, and unless they recognize that, they will keep repeating them. Rebirth is not a punishment. It is an opportunity, but also a trap, if you are not awake. That is why a soul can only escape the cycle once it lets go. When it no longer clings to anything of this world, when it finally remembers who it really is, and realizes that nothing in this material world is permanent. Until then, the wheel keeps turning. When the soul has left the body and passed through the moment of life review, its journey does not end. In fact, it is just beginning. Beyond the threshold of life lies not a cold, dark void, but a transformative space, where the soul ascends through levels of consciousness, shedding the limitations of time, matter, and form. The first level, many call it the light at the end of the tunnel. Some see themselves passing through a door, others enter a vast, infinite space bathed in a gentle, healing light. In this realm, the soul is restored. The fears, the heaviness, the trauma accumulated from the physical life are slowly dissolved. It's like waking up from a long nightmare. You don't fully understand what just happened, but you know you've escaped something heavy. The second level is called the realm of pure thought. Here, the body no longer exists, only consciousness remains. In this space, there is no longer a division between me and you, no gender, no religion, no status, no more I am right, you are wrong. Everything merges into a state of total understanding. The soul begins to reflect on its previous lives, not just the most recent one, but dozens, hundreds of past incarnations. It sees how its actions affected others. It clearly sees the patterns repeated over and over, the lessons still not learned. There is no punishment, but the truth becomes so clear, there is no way to deny it. This is the realm where many souls say, I will go back, not because they are forced to, but because they understand there is still something to learn, a debt not yet repaid, a love not yet fulfilled, a wrong to be made right. And so they return to the cycle of rebirth, carrying a purpose, but once again, forgetting everything. The third level, the deepest one, reached by only a few, is the realm of total knowing. There is no past, present, or future, no self and other, only union with the universe, with the original source of all being. In this state, the soul no longer asks, what should I learn? Or where should I go? Or who should I become? Everything simply is enough. The soul dwells in profound clarity about the nature of existence, that all of life is simply an experience, and that all souls are on the path of return, back to the light. Yet even with this deep knowing, most souls still choose to return. They willingly forget everything they've just seen. They accept the chaos of a new life, in a new body, simply to keep learning, keep loving, keep evolving, because they know, only through the human experience, brief, chaotic, and limited as it may be, can the soul truly mature. These three heavens are not places to escape to. They are pauses between returns, moments of healing, reflection, and choice, and then, once ready, the soul once again dives into the temporary world, forgetting everything, just to remember it all. Again, if there is one invisible force that keeps your soul returning to earth, life after life, it is called attachment. Attachment, it sounds very human. We grow attached to family, to those we love, to memories, to identity, to wealth, to reputation. We believe these things are a part of us, that they define our worth, but the soul is not human. It merely borrows the human form for a short while, to experience, to learn. And because we forget this truth, we begin to cling, and that clinging becomes the chain that binds the soul to the endless cycle of reincarnation. A person who dies still holding unresolved anger, deep resentment, or regret, their soul cannot be freed. It carries that energy into the next life, living again to face the very lessons it once avoided. Someone who lives chasing money, power, or fame, when they die, they are still unsatisfied. They return, continuing the endless chase. A person attached to their identity, I am a man, I belong to this country, I follow this religion, their soul remains trapped in the very shell they identified with. As long as you identify yourself with the temporary, you cannot leave the temporary world. Attachment is not love. True love is not possession. Attachment is the fear of loss, the urge to control, the anxiety of change. But life is impermanent. Everything will fade. Loved ones will grow old. Possessions will decay. Fame will be forgotten. And if you are attached to these things, you will suffer. And that suffering is what anchors your soul, life after life. Ironically, the things we believe to be deep love often become the greatest obstacles to our soul's liberation. True love does not cling. True love says, I know you don't belong to me, and I love you anyway. It knows that every experience is temporary, and still, it cherishes them. The soul is not imprisoned by any external force. No God is stopping you from leaving. No supernatural being is dragging you back. Only you, and what you still cannot release. Attachment is not just external. It lives inside, in the form of habits, thought patterns, beliefs you think are your identity. And until you ask yourself, who am I without these things, you are still in bondage. Letting go does not mean rejecting life. On the contrary, it is the most awakened and free way to live. When you no longer cling, you no longer fear loss. When you no longer fear loss, you can finally live. And when you live that way, you are no longer pulled back. You may choose to return, but no longer out of attachment. You return out of love, out of service, out of light. That is when the soul finally begins to understand what true freedom means. Awakening is not a sudden explosion. It is not a divine lightning bolt or a dramatic moment of enlightenment as people often imagine. Awakening is a journey, quiet, subtle, and full of challenges. It does not happen outside of you, but begins within. And to begin that journey, you only need 3 keys: mindfulness, meditation, letting go. The first key is mindfulness, living with awareness, without being swept away by thoughts, emotions, or the labels that society places upon you. But mindfulness here is not the version sold to you for productivity or emotional control. True mindfulness is the ability to observe yourself without judgment. It's when you pause in the middle of chaos and ask, where did this thought come from? Is this belief even true? Do I really want this, or was I taught to want it? Only by observing yourself in stillness can you begin to see how much of you is programming. Fears that are not yours, dreams you didn't choose, reactions shaped by the past, not the present. Mindfulness is the flashlight shining into the darkness of your mind. The second key is meditation, not as an escape, but as a way to look deeper into reality. When you sit down, let go of all roles, and simply be with yourself, layer by layer, the ego begins to dissolve, the noise in your head quiets, buried emotions start to rise. You may face discomfort, emptiness, even fear. But if you stay, if you are patient and listen deeply to the voice within, you will begin to remember, not through thought, but through a silent, uncheckable knowing. In that stillness, you realize you are not the thoughts in your head. You are not the past. You are not your name, your age, or your job. You are the one who is watching, the pure awareness behind every experience. The third key is letting go. Letting go does not mean giving up on life. It does not mean becoming numb or indifferent. Letting go means no longer clinging. It means you can love someone without trying to control them. You can pour your heart into something without tying your worth to the outcome. You can live each moment fully, while knowing it will pass. Letting go means walking through life, without letting life stick to you. When these three keys come together, mindfulness to observe, meditation to listen, letting go to release, you begin to step out of the illusion, the things that once caused anxiety, competition, or pain. Slowly lose their grip. You stop chasing. You stop hiding. You simply become present in your most natural, original form. That is the beginning of awakening, not to become someone great, but to remember you have always been whole, and you can always come home. At a certain point in every soul's journey, a moment arrives, the moment of choice, not a choice made by the rational mind, but one that comes from deep within. Will you return to the old cycle, or step onto a higher level of awareness? That moment is rarely loud. It doesn't come with lightning from the sky or divine light. It arrives quietly, perhaps in the middle of the night, when you whisper to yourself, "Who am I?" It comes after you've achieved everything you once dreamed of, a good job, recognition, a perfect relationship, and still feel strangely empty inside. It comes when you see someone else's pain and can't explain why it makes you cry. It comes when you begin to doubt everything you once believed to be true. And in that moment, your soul is being given a choice. To return means continuing life as before, continuing to believe in that's outside, continuing to chase the same old metrics of the world, success, status, approval, believing happiness lies in the next time, in more, in just a little harder. To return is to live another life, maybe with a different body, in another country, with another name, but still playing the same lessons, the same patterns on loop. To rise means daring to step away from the crowd, letting go of the roles, and starting to live authentically. No one pushes you. No one praises you. You do it because you can no longer not do it. Because you can no longer pretend to sleep. Once something inside has begun to awaken, to rise doesn't mean escaping the world, but rather, living within it without being consumed by it. It means seeing the impermanence of everything, and still opening your heart to love. It means no longer letting the outside world determine your worth. It means you are no longer driven by fear, fear of failure, fear of loneliness, fear of loss, because you now know that the soul cannot be lost. But the path upward is not easy. It demands that you let go of everything familiar. You must stand strong when the world around you doesn't understand. You must remain steady even when society still chases illusions. And yes, you may feel lonely at times, but in that silence, you will clearly hear your soul's voice, telling you it's time to move forward. Not everyone chooses the upward path. Many will hear the calling, and then turn away. They are still too in love with their roles. They still believe the material world can fill the void within. And so they return, not because they are forced, but because they are not yet ready to leave. But a rare few will choose differently. They will stop acting. They will stop needing the approval of others. They will no longer seek themselves in what can be lost. They will rise, not to win, but because they have remembered who they are. And if you are reading these words, if something in your heart quietly stirs, then maybe, just maybe, your moment of choice has already arrived. And only you can decide, will you return, or will you rise?